Coldest is going on Shark Tank in 11 days? What? And how the heck did we get here? I'm gonna show you guys exactly how we got here. It's kind of nuts. So it all started from this one car garage in Naples, Florida. This is Dave's house, where he basically fulfilled and shipped Coldest water bottles in the very early days. And it was kind of like, honestly, I just remember him struggling really hard in the early days. Basically, after he was done packing basically the few colors that we had at the time, he would have to drop them off at UPS and USPS. So it wasn't like it is today where USPS and UPS comes to our warehouse and picks it up. But it was definitely hard, and I just remember how hard it was. I joined around where it was like 2017, 2018, where we were at HQV2. This was basically a 2,500 square foot warehouse in a house that he ended up buying. We basically made the operation at his house. It was probably the most efficient and most ideal setup that we've ever had, simply because he could wake up and go into his backyard and fulfill packaging. And then UPS and USPS, we got to a volume where UPS basically can come by to your house and pick up the shipments. That's, I think, when you hit like at minimum 50 orders per day, they just start sending like little cars or box trucks to your house to pick up. And that was also in Naples, Florida. By the way, Coldest was started in one of the hottest states, out of basically the need for cold things. Dave and I are both hot sleepers. One of the main reasons why I joined the brand was I saw basically the massive problem in the space of all the products out in the market were essentially creating bottles and other products and they weren't really directly addressing the situation. Like, if you think of all the competitors in our space, they're not really addressing the situation. They're like in the wild or whatever, or I don't know. Their mission is just, it's not really specifically targeting cold, and that's where we're like, we can do this way better. We're just gonna focus on making the coldest products better than everything else on the market, and that's exactly what we've been doing since inception. So I joined around 2018. This is actually a picture of us when we visited China. It was kind of cool. These are some of the partners that we have, and this is David just kind of like inspecting some of the bottles at our factory. We were designing and developing pretty rapidly. I would say we follow Elon Musk and SpaceX and Tesla a lot. So we believe in rapid iteration of our products. So for a while, we didn't file any trademarks. We didn't file any patents up until Shark Tank. When Shark Tank hit, we started filing patents like crazy. Within 3 months, we had 10 patents filed and 10 trademarks, which, by the way, like, I was doing all the research and legal paperwork and doing everything I can to learn about patents during that time, and I ended up kind of just going ham. So it wasn't like we hired like a huge law firm or anything. We just filed them ourselves. And to be honest, once you understand a little bit about legal, you can do it yourself. And we can dive into that in a different video. But anyhow, in 2020, this is kind of like inside that 2,500 square foot warehouse. You can kind of see the house in the background, so it's right there. And you just have like pallets backed up. And it got to a point where that 2,500 square feet warehouse was full. We ended up ordering these 40-foot containers, shipping containers, and we just put them all over the backyard. It was like the most insane operation. You can kind of see it here, where it's just insane. And it got to a sketchy point because you're not really supposed to have shipping containers in a residential backyard. So the next door neighbor ended up calling law enforcement on us, and they called code enforcement, and basically they ended up coming to our door and they're like, you have to move everything in the next like 30 days, otherwise you're gonna be charged $500 a day. So it was absolutely nuts. We kind of, that was a really low point in the business where we thought everything was just going to fail. I mean, to move an entire operation plus all these containers is not a simple undertaking by any means, but we kept going through, we hustled through, we had a great team with us, and they understood. However, every time you move, the problem is it's a really stressful thing for employees, and we ended up losing a lot of employees. Anyhow, that time that was like during COVID, and even during COVID, it was probably one of the scariest and sketchiest time, as I'm sure for a lot of businesses at the very early start. In early 2020 was another massive scare. I think orders went down to less than like 5, and we were like, dude, are we gonna make it to like the end of the week? Like, we just didn't even know. I think everybody stopped ordering everywhere for like a good week, 2 weeks, and then it's weird because then COVID did like some weird shift, and we started seeing like a massive increase in orders because everybody started shopping online, and that was like another big thing too, is we were able to pivot at that time, and we started hiring so fast, and we just started scaling so fast. We didn't wait for like COVID to end, or we didn't wait for it to start. It was just like we just kind of picked up on the market conditions, and we're like, all right, let's just run really fast with this. So we moved to HQ3 in 2021. That was a 15,000 square foot warehouse, about 7.5 times bigger than Dave's backyard. And that was when we were able to kind of build a lot of efficiencies into the business. And whenever you move into like such a big warehouse, it's also very scary because everything can also just crash. You end up having very high overhead, and we were kind of nervous the first 1 to 2 years. You probably will always be nervous when you transition to a new warehouse, because you're like, how do we pay these extra operating costs that didn't exist before and do exist now? And at the same, if you think about it, when you were just operating out of his backyard, he's just paying his mortgage. So it's a way crazier change. What's weird is even during COVID, we moved into the mall, which was a really cool thing. We always wanted to start our own store. Luckily, like, we had a very ideal setup with the mall, where a lot of what we had to do was already previously set up. So what looks like a very elaborate setup was actually just me and Dave designing in the back end and working really hard to make it look as professional and epic as possible. So that was one cool pivot that we did.